Betrayal is a tough pill to swallow, especially when it's from the person you least expect it to come from. How is a Christian supposed to move forward when met with these circumstances? In today's episode, I'll be talking with Cassidy Carpenter.
Hey!
Cassidy is a mother of three, homeschooler, wife, and a business owner. Wow. So what kind of business are you up to, Cassidy?
So I am helping business owners virtually with their content and social media and any kind of other media that they have. So that's what I do.
Yeah, really cool. Really cool.
Yeah.
I like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
So guys, I met her through Instagram a while ago, like probably 6 or 7 months ago. I haven't really counted it up, but I know it's about that long ago though.
Before that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while. So we've kind of chatted back and forth. And, she asked if she could be on the show. And I was like, yeah. I did ask some little questions, to make sure where she was as far as a Christian. And she just kind of let me know a little bit of her story. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to have you on. Since then, some things had changed, that was a long time ago. But yeah, so what made you want to reach out to me way back when?
So whenever I first reached out, I really felt moved to talk about my story of how I grew up without a father. He passed away whenever I was 8 years old. And it was really just me and my mom my whole life, And I had never had a male father figure in my life. I had really, there was really I just always really desired that kind of leadership and that kind of attention. I wanted that male father figure and I just never had it. And whenever I was 18 years old, I got married to, a boy, and he was not nice to me. And I don't believe he was saved. I thought that he was, but it turns out I don't believe he was. And, it was an abusive relationship. And so we divorced, and we got out of that relationship. And then not that long afterwards, Matthew came into my life, and I met him, and I felt like this was the answer to my prayer. I felt like that emptiness, that kind of longing kind of went away. And I felt like this was God's answer. Like this was his gift to me, the thing that I had been looking for. And so that was really what I was wanting to kind of come on here and talk about, that kind of longing, and then finding the person that I really wanted to be with, that kind of, put all of that away.
Yeah.
A few months ago, things kind of changed a little bit. So now I'm going to be talking something a little bit different.
Yeah. I'm going to be reaching out and asking me, well, can I still have this conversation? Because now things have changed and things are not, there's not a bow on it. There's not a resolved point to it. And I was like, yeah, you can still share, because I think that's just a lot about our life. And that's also part of the point of my show is showing that, and that even though things aren't resolved, we're still kind of, wading our way through it, that we're still anchored in God and who he is and what he says for us to do and what he says about us and who we are. So I felt like it's still relevant. That doesn't disqualify you from sharing your story, because God's still in it. Yeah. Yeah,
I appreciate that because, I noticed it's up from the muck, and I just wasn't sure, do I need to be all the way to this, or can I still be going through the
No. Yeah, you can still be in it and just knowing that he will bring you up. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So with that being said, what is your story today? Where are we starting at today?
Yeah. So a few months ago, my now husband, he confessed to having a porn addiction and having cheated on me with multiple women via sexting and a kiss. He shared a kiss with another woman. And I was just completely devastated. I was completely blindsided. I had no idea. I thought our entire relationship that I was his one and only. He had no desire for other women. I had no inkling at all about what was happening. And so he finally confessed everything to me, and it just shattered my whole life. It felt like.
Yeah, that would be a lot to take in. I'm married as well, and that would be what? You did what? Man, I can't really imagine. I can only imagine, but no, I really can't imagine. So I know that's a lot. when he told you, do you feel like it was because he was just full of conviction and guilt, or was there anything else to it? Like, what do you think was behind
No, I
his
definitely
confession?
think, yeah, like I think it was 100% conviction and guilt.
Yeah.
You know, I did not catch him doing this. This was something that he came to me with, just told me the whole story. So it's not like I caught him cheating. It's not like I found something in his phone. He came to me and he confessed it all. And I know like God was just kind of kept messing with him, kept poking at him like, come on, when are you going to deal with this? When are you going to tell her? And right before he had told me everything, about a week before that, he had slipped up with the porn again. So whenever he told me everything, you know, he explained that he hadn't done any of that stuff in a while. So he had stopped the sexting about 2 years ago. The kiss that he shared with the other woman, it didn't go further than that, thankfully. And then the porn, you know, it lessened a lot. And so he hadn't really done that in a while, but he had slipped up like the week before that. And so I think that he was just really struggling with that and finally decided to just
like he'd been wanting
about
like he'd been wanting to put that down and was just really struggling with it. Man, what were your first thoughts though when he told you? Like, I would just be like, are you I think for me, like, this is surreal. Like, is this happening to me? Like, what was your first thoughts like with all that?
I mean, I honestly could not believe it. I mean, my first thoughts were like, he has been lying to me our whole relationship. And I think that's kind of like the first thing that I said. I was like, so all the times that you told me that I was your one and only and you wanted only me, you were just lying to me, you know? And so, I mean, I was devastated. I just could not believe it. I felt completely blindsided. And I really went between like really intense anger and then like really intense sadness. And it was just like so many different emotions. It was just really hard.
Man. So now that it's been like a few months, like, how do you feel now, like presently?
I mean, now currently we have done a lot of work together to come through this. And I think God as well has really been in our relationship and just kind of helping us to work through things. And I feel a lot better than I did whenever this first happened. You know, I'm still struggling with the hurt and all of that, but I'm not where I was. I don't feel it doesn't feel quite as painful. I don't feel as just destroyed and devastated about it. I feel like I've come to a place of acceptance. And so I'm really just trying to work through, you know, just the aftermath of it all and learning how to build that trust with him again.
I mean, definitely understand that struggle. Once that kind of like trust has been broken, that is really hard to gain back, you know, because part of, you know, I'm a married woman. So like part of that marriage there is like having that, like, we're a team, you know, why would you ever abandon me? And why would you ever betray me in such a way? And so when that's broken, that's really difficult to gain back. Like, it really is. But man, so what has kept you from divorce? You know, because you guys are still together. This happened, you know, several months ago. So what has kept you from, because I think for some people, they'll be like, oh, well, that's the one excuse I needed, you know, or like, that's the last straw. What has kept you from that, you know?
I mean, that's a great question, because I think, and I definitely heavily considered it whenever he told me, you know, that's the first thought that comes up is like, okay, should we divorce? Like, where do we go, you know? But I think there's a few different factors that kind of go into it. And it's not as easy as just being like, okay, well, bye. Like, I'm done, you know? There's so many other factors. And, you know, one of them, like, the biggest thing is my kids. You know, we have 3 kids together. And, like, I have to consider the ramifications of that, you know? I have to consider how it's going to affect them, how it would work out, like, you know, what it's going to do to their relationship with their father, because even if him and I aren't together, like, their relationship, I want their relationship to still be good, you know? And so that was like, that was a huge reason why I have been really trying to work through things. You know, another reason was because I did really believe that he was remorseful. I really did. But this, again, like I said, it wasn't something that I caught him doing. Thankfully, it was something that he came to me with. And so I really did believe that he was remorseful and that he wanted to change. And so I felt like I needed to give him that. I mean, I wanted us to have this great love where it is just him and me, and that's all he wants, you know, because that's how I have always been since day one. Like, he's been it for me. Like, I have not anybody else, you know? And so, like, that's what I want for him. And, like, I can't experience that if I give up on him, you know? So I feel like I owe it to myself a little bit, too, to, like, it came a little bit. I hate to say that. You know, to kind of get that back a little bit. And then another thing too is that, like, honestly, it's what Jesus would do. You know, I mean, he has done that for us. He does that all the time for us. You know, he forgives over and over and over again. And, you know, like, there's no expectation from him. He just wants you to, repent, to stop doing the thing, and then, you know, give your heart to follow him. And honestly, that's what I want to do. You know, it's like, I just want him to his heart and to stop doing bad things, you know? And so,
I mean, that's kind of what,
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's kind of like when you're talking about Jesus and all and God, like, that's what the book of Hosea is like all about, you know, like, when he tells Hosea to literally not buy, but to, well, he kind of has to, like, to marry a prostitute. He actually at one point does have to purchase her back, you know, even though she did repeatedly cheat on him, but God was like, no, like, and it was a whole, like, kind of a metaphor thing, but that's who he wanted him to be with. But it's kind of a picture, and the purpose in that was the picture of, like, his love for Israel, for the Jewish people, you know, even though they keep doing these things. So you're right about that. That is his model for us, even though it is very painful. But
and I mean, whenever all of this first happened, you know, we reached out to the pastors at our church, and I went and talked with a woman pastor to just kind of work through some of this. And something that she had mentioned was, you know, a marriage represents, you know, God's covenant with his people. And the people of Israel, he had a covenant with them, and they broke it repeatedly over and over and over, but he never broke his covenant with them. You know, he continued to show them grace and mercy. And, you know, I feel like that's my role in this, you know, in this marriage. And now, don't get me wrong, if all this stuff happens again, like, I can't continue, I feel like. We'll get there.
I mean, boundaries are important. You know, we're not saying be a doormat, but, like, considering, like you said, the circumstances, he came to you, he confessed, like, it was with you know, an olive branch to say, like, hey, like, this is this ugly thing. I don't like it, but I need to confess it so we can be whole again. Like, that's step one, is having, just like with our relationship with God, like, step one is confessing, you know, so, but it's different things when you keep breaking boundaries over and over again. That makes you question,
exactly.
You know, and I feel like Lisa Turkers, like, does a really great job of modeling that for us. And I really hate all the things she's been through, but I'm so thankful that she's been brave enough to share her experiences and the books and the things, because there's not a lot of literature for us what that looks like from a Christian's perspective, like how to, like, handle these really ugly things. So I am thankful for that was brave enough to share that with us, because we need models on that.
Yes, exactly. I agree.
And then, like, you know, I think at some point we mentioned before, like, you were angry with God at one point with the situation, and it's very understandable. Do you still feel that way?
I mean, not as much now. Like, I definitely was in the beginning, because I was like, why didn't you show me? Why didn't you open my eyes to it and me see this sooner? You know, but somewhere along the way, I feel like God was kind of telling me, look, I was protecting you throughout all of this, because this was something that I was dealing with Matthew on. You know, this wasn't your burden to bear, you know? And so I feel like, you know, he was protecting me, and I just, now I'm not so angry with him. Now I feel like I understand a little bit better. It wasn't about me, this issue that he had, it wasn't about me. It was something that he needed to deal with, and something that God needed to deal with him on as well. And, it's just, I feel like God was he's always been there for me. So I don't feel so angry with him anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a good point too, that you mentioned, like, that was something that he was dealing with, Matthew, because, porn and all, like, that we like to think it's a physical thing. And I'm sure, yes, that's part of it, but it's really more of an emotional void, a mental, but more of emotional void. So there's something definitely there from him that's where his alignment was missing for sure. Right. And this is a taboo. We don't always talk about porn in church or podcast or whatever things, So I think it's important to mention that it is more of a him problem, definitely not a you problem.
Yes, exactly.
Because it is.
Porn, it really stems from a lack of relationship with God. There is some kind of a void there that you're trying to fill. I mean, it's like any other addiction. If it was alcohol or drugs, it's the same thing. And so there was a void there, and he needed to go to God with it, but I know there is so much shame and just so much judgment around it, and I mean, yes, it's not a good thing. But it is something that is very taboo, something we don't talk about.
So what is your struggle now? Like, I know you're still in the middle of it, and at first it was like, do you stay or do you go? Right now, though, what is your struggle at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really just building that trust back with my husband, because at this point, I have decided I'm going to stay. My husband has been doing a lot of things to really show me that he is changing, and I believe him, and I feel like we deserve a second chance. So, it's not so much a question of whether I'm going to stay or go, but now it's just about like, okay, can I really trust him? And also putting in place just certain boundaries and other things in place that will keep that temptation away. It'll, it won't, so that he's not being tempted and stuff like that with looking at those things. So
the triggers or whatever. Yeah. And just for him too, just recognizing that it is more of an emotional need that he's actually lacking. There's and it becomes a habit for people, just like you're saying, like alcohol or drugs, you kind of get used to a certain thing, or people do. And so it's sometimes it's that you're not even really thinking about whatever stuff. And so,
Yeah. And another thing that I'm really struggling with too is just my body image. I mean, even though I am showing my husband grace and all this and being, trying to be understanding, it still really hurts my self-worth a lot. That's something that's just been a hit to me, because I feel like I'm just not enough for him. Like, I'm not good enough. Like, he would prefer to go look at other women, and that has been really, really hard for me. And so that's something that I'm struggling with as well right now, is just trying to separate my self-worth from his actions and his behavior. And just, finding my worth in Jesus, because that's really where it's at. It's not found in my husband or in his behavior, in his feelings towards me. It's found in Jesus. And that's something that was a huge revelation for me too, because I knew God was telling me that I have been putting my relationship with my husband on a pedestal, and I have honestly been putting it before God. And that's not cool. My relationship with God, my relationship with Jesus needs to be number one always. And it needs to be put first above anything else. And so, the biggest thing, I'm really struggling with my body image, and really just knowing, finding my worth in Jesus again, separating my self-worth from my husband's behavior, because my self-worth is dependent on what he does or how he feels. My self-worth is found in Jesus, and that's the only place that my worth should be coming from, my worth and my value. And, a huge revelation that God kind of brought to me during this was that I have been putting my relationship with my husband on a pedestal and before God. And like, I've known that. I've known it in the back of my head all of this time. But then this whole situation has really brought it up for me. And it's just kind of put it right there in my face. Like, you're not putting me first. And so I really feel like God has been, teaching me that through all of this is that, my worth is found in him. It's not found in my husband. It's not found in any other man,
or
and
even your children,
Yes, exactly. Or in anybody else. It's found in, in him. And he's really just pulling me back and, coaxing me to put him first and above everything else, above everyone else. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. So how are some ways that, God has soothed your soul during this whole process?
He's just reassured me over and over again that he's always with me. That's been the biggest thing, is just knowing that he is there and realizing that he was protecting me during everything. And, realizing, like, understanding more about his character, through my Bible reading, through time. Like, I'm realizing more and more about who he is and the fact that he is never going to be unfaithful to me. My husband may have been, but he will not be. And like, I can always count on him. Like, he's never going to lie to me. He's never going to choose someone else over me. He's always going to be there, and he loves me. And, that has been such a calming for me. It's been like such a calmness, peace, because, I have felt just abandoned and rejected by my husband. And so knowing that I do have a really good and faithful father who is there with me always, it's just such a comfort.
Yeah. How do you think, you would handle this situation if you didn't have a relationship with Jesus, if you didn't know God? How do you think that you would respond?
I feel like that's such a loaded question.
It is on purpose.
I feel like, honestly, it could go two ways. So the first way, it could be like, I don't see a problem with porn, and it's like, okay, that's fine. You do whatever you want to do. And it wouldn't bother me. Or the second thing, the other way it could go is that I would have been just completely destroyed. At a point where I don't know if I could come back. I probably would have turned to alcohol. I probably would have become very angry and bitter. It just would have destroyed me in a way that there is no hope. Like, I've been broken completely by this, but there has been hope. There is a way to get through. But if I don't have God, then it's like there is no hope, Like, in that instance, then my self-worth is found only in my husband, and then he just completely shattered that. Like, I don't have any self-worth,
Yeah. Very good point on all that. Yeah, because, God gives us that road to reconciliation, because he models that for us. He's been modeling that for millennia now, or 2 millennia now. And so, like, we have a roadmap for what reconciliation looks like. So without him, it's like, it's not even not like how, exactly everything you just said. Are there any verses that you're clinging to right now? Anything that's like really giving you any special juice of hope?
Yeah, like there's 2 of them. There's Lamentations 3:20 through 23. Should I read them?
Yeah.
Should I go ahead and read them out loud?
Share them.
Okay. Yeah, so Lamentations 3:20 through 23. I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss. Yet I still dare to hope when I remember this. The faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning. I love that verse. That is like perfect. I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my life. I am in a state of grief. I am grieving the relationship that I thought that we had. And so that's such a perfect verse. Another one is Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be in dread of them, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you.
Yeah. That's another
one that has just been so powerful for me because, again, just knowing that he is there. I am not alone, and he's always been there to help me through. Like, it's such a...
And he's there for Matthew too, like he hasn't abandoned Matthew because of his missteps. I mean, if we need an example of that, we need to talk about David. David did quite a few things. Bathsheba, Uriah, a whole bunch of stuff there. So, and God says that he was after his own heart. So like, our sins don't have to define us, so exactly. Just having that hope for him as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Have you guys, I think we talked about this earlier, but I just want to circle back to it anyways. Have you guys sought Christian counseling, or have you yourself personally had sought out Christian counseling?
Yeah. I mean, whenever we first went, this whole thing happened, we went ahead and saw pastors at the church. So that was helpful. But I did go ahead and start seeing a Christian counselor. We've had 2 sessions, so it's kind of new, but it has already been help. Like just to be able to talk about what I'm going through and just all of the thoughts in my head and talking to someone who cares but is not attached or judgmental has been just so healing for me already. Yeah. So it was like the best decision.
Yeah, counseling is great.
My husband, yes, for sure. And my husband, we've been talking about him going as well because I think he needs counseling as well. Like he needs support too. And so we just had this big move, so we're still trying to figure things out. But yeah, we're talking about him going to see a counselor as well.
Yeah, I'll probably help him deal with, his things as well. Because like we talked earlier, like it's a battle for him too. It's not only just for y'all's marriage, but it's a battle for him as well. And if you guys are on the path to seeking reconciliation, definitely, that's probably a must for both of y'all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Man. Yeah. Man. I really hate that you've gone through all this and for him too. Like, and I just want to take a moment to like commend Matthew. Like, I know in a way we're like dirtying, airing both of y'all's laundry, but I don't want him to feel like he's a bad guy, because like you said earlier, like he did come to you and confess. I think that, like you said, and I believe I'm with you. I'm like, I feel like that's a heart that says like, hey, I want to do what's right, and I want to honor you. And the first step in honoring you is telling you the truth. And like, this is what I did. I don't like it. I haven't, I've been working on it.
Yes.
But now he's coming to you and saying like, I need help. I need more than just myself and stopping. I need your help too. So like, I think that's awesome. I feel like that's the heart of us to our own Father, our Heavenly Father, saying like, hey, I've tried to kick whatever bad habit by myself and I couldn't do it. So I feel like I have all the hope of hopes for you guys and that on your road to reconciliation. Cause I know like I'm married. I've been hurt in my marriage, and I've also been the offender in my marriage. Not too above that either. That happens, and it's hard to rebuild those roads, but I do feel like there's hope. There's always hope with God. So, yeah.
Yes, for sure. Yes, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I do hate that you guys have been through that, but would you mind, could I pray for y'all? Like, and just thank you again for sharing your story. This is very vulnerable to share. And I thank you for sharing it. Just like Lisa Turkhurst, people need to hear stories of how we're working through things like this. As Christians, we're not putting our head in the sand. We deal with things. We deal with it though with a godly perspective. Yeah. If you don't mind, I'd like to pray for y'all.
And absolutely. I'd love that.
Yeah. Dear God, I just want to pray for Cassidy and Matthew, and I just thank you for their union. Thank you for their hearts for you and the hearts for each other. And I just pray that you keep working on them and help them see a way to hope and reconciliation, Lord, and that road is not a short one. You know that, but you can give them the strength and hope to continue on that road, Lord. And I just pray that in your name, Jesus. Amen. Yeah. And,
Amen.
Thank you so much. And just thank you so much for coming and sharing your story.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it was very difficult for me to talk about this because it hasn't been that long and I am still working through it. But I know that God can use my story to bless others. And so that's really the point of everything and the purpose of coming on here and sharing, because if I can help even just one other person who's going through something like this, then I feel like the discomfort was worth it,
Yeah, definitely. Right.
My name is Cassidy, and this is my story of the middle.
And I'm your host, Brandy Bostic, and you've been listening to the Up From the Up podcast. If you'd like to get some merch or, more extra content, you should go to my Patreon account in the show notes below.
Psalm 40, verse 2. He brought me up from a desolate pit, out of the muddy clay, and set my feet on the rock, making my steps secure.